Let me brag about our speaker for a minute. This is the PATCA executive briefing today on connecting with people through behavioral analysis. Our speaker is Ramesh Dewangan. He's a certified speaker, coach, and trainer. His focus areas are leadership development, personal growth, and public speaking. His firm is Quantum Vision Consulting. Ramesh holds an MBA from Haas and a BSEE from India's NTK. So just like MK and perhaps some others on the call, he's a recovering engineer. Ramesh?
Thank you, Sean, so much for the wonderful introduction, and welcome to you all. PATCA is a great organization. It has been serving us, the technical professional consulting community, for several years. I'm proud to be a presenter here. Let me start with a story. When I was working for a multinational named Texas Instruments, I worked in a project in collaboration with UT Austin, University of Texas, Austin. And the professor I worked with, his name was Larry Pileggi. We really hit off well. We really developed good rapport. And I completed the project and really kind of lost touch. For the next 5 years, I wasn't in touch with him. And I moved to Silicon Valley to a company called Synopsys. It was first 2 weeks in Synopsys. And I heard that there was a lunch and learn talk by none other than Professor Larry Pileggi. I was excited because I really knew him from the previous collaboration. So I turned up in this lunch and learn room, and I was there along with 40 other people. There were R&D engineers, scientists, all really eagerly waiting for the professor. I didn't even get a place to sit. So I kind of was standing at the corner of the room, in a standing room. I didn't know anyone because I was very new to the company. And professor came, he looked around in the room and he spotted me and he said, "Ramesh, what are you doing here?" I was kind of very ecstatic, but at the same time, a little bit embarrassed because everyone was looking at me now. Who is this guy, Ramesh? And I've never seen this guy before. Anyway, but I felt really proud of my connection with him. Later on, a lot of people came and really trying to shake hands with me because I knew Larry Pileggi. And they asked me what I was doing there. Bottom line is, connecting with others really help. And it helps in all situations, sometimes in situations that you may not have dreamt of. Welcome to the webinar on connecting with others through behavioral analysis. So let me ask, do you want to have more effective interaction with others? Do you wish your team members were more connected so you could get better results from the team? Do you really want to increase your influence with others? If you answer yes to any one of this, you are at the right place. Imagine managing a team that so effectively that everyone is really well connected and everybody can count on each other. Sometimes that looks very daunting to us, but imagine that is possible. Imagine you figure out how to get the best outcome from others. Imagine what would it be if you came across confident and helpful to others. Won't it be wonderful? I believe that connecting with others is a learned skill. You're not born with it. Everyone can achieve it if you put effort into it. I believe that you can deal with people of all types. Doesn't have to be same type as you. They can have different background, diversity, and so on. I believe you can connect with others in every situation. I told you about a situation with Larry Pileggi. Likewise, you can have many other situations that you can really connect with others. So let me tell you my story. I really appreciate my life. Coming from humble background, I made it to higher levels of management in Silicon Valley. I led global teams, both in India as well as Silicon Valley. I worked with startup as well as large companies. I made several deep level connections that have shaped my life. But I wasn't like this earlier. As a child, I was introvert. I was shy to open up, and I was selfish. I was younger brother, and when my parents gave ice cream to both of us, I made sure that I could finish my ice cream very quickly. And I used to borrow the rest from my brother. And he was so kind that he would always keep some part of the ice cream ready because he knew that I would ask him. Once my father dropped me to one of his friend's house for overnight stay. I didn't like him a bit. So in the night, we went to a theater for movies. And when we came out of the movie, I saw there was a public transport bus standing there, which took straight to my home, which was about 10 kilometers away. I hopped onto the bus without even letting the friend know. And I came to house. And those were the days there were no phones available for my father to call his friend. And it created a huge chaos because his friend was searching for me all over. And then he came over to our house and he found me there. I felt embarrassed and I felt really like I didn't open up with my father's friend. And I learned hard way a lesson. Slowly as I grew, as I went into school, as I went to college, as I started working, I started opening up. I recall that my college friends started coming to me for help in their studies. That's when I knew that I'm connected. My work colleagues started coming to me for advice in the career. Again, I knew then that I was connected. John C. Maxwell, one of the leading leadership guru, says that connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them in such a way that increases your influence with them. That's what connecting is. Now, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Hence, connecting is really the foundation of leadership. Everybody communicates, but very few connect. Let's see. You think you communicate well, so you connect well. But is it really true? Connecting is really something that goes beyond the words spoken. Did you know that we are bombarded with 35,000 messages a day? And on average, most people speak about 16,000 words a day. They would fill up 300-page book every week and a library in lifetime. Talk is easy. Everyone talks. The question is, how do you make the words count? As per the book, Silent Messages, written by Albert Mehrabian of UCLA, back in 1971, only 7% of the meaning is communicated through spoken words. 38% is through tone of the voice. That is the pitch, the tone, the speed, the rhythm, the pauses that you use, all of that count towards 38%. 55% is through body language. That is your gestures, posture, pose, expressions. They carry the impact. So as you can see, more than 90% have nothing to do with the words that you speak. It has everything to do with non-verbal aspects of your communication. So when it comes to connecting, there are three kinds of people. First, who connect naturally. Call them connectors. Second are the people who recognize that connecting is important, but they don't know how to go about doing it. Call them curious. Third people are the ones who don't recognize connecting is important. They know it all. They don't need others' help. They don't need to rely on others. Why rely on others when I can be that so adept and quick? Call them skeptics. So I'm curious to know, among this audience today, how many of you are connectors, who think you're connectors, who you think you're curious or skeptics? So could you type in the chat window 1, 2, or 3? 1 for connector, 2 for curious, 3 for skeptic. Let's see what our audience is today. Okay, I do see a lot of 2s. Looks like 2 is the one that is winning the race here. Great, you're all curious. You all think connecting is important, but you need tools and techniques. That's great. So this, hopefully today it will help. And many of you are also connectors, which is great. Why it is great is I am a connector myself. I know I have now developed a flair for connecting. And let me give you an example from my past. I was 24 years old. I was a working professional. I was working in the city of Bangalore. But I was traveling in a train from a city called Baroda in India to Mumbai, a big city. It was about 4 to 5 hours train ride. Sitting in the train, I see someone sitting far away. He was probably 2 years younger than me. And I kind of remembered that his face looks familiar. I was thinking, who could this be? Then I remembered that I had a friend in Baroda, very good friend, and he had a younger brother. So I thought maybe this guy is the younger brother of my best friend, good friend. I went to him after a little hesitation and I asked him, excuse me, if you don't mind, let me ask you one question. And he said, yeah, sure, go ahead. And he said, do you have an elder brother named Mr. Das? And he said, no, I don't. I'm the only son of my parents. I felt a little embarrassed. I said, I'm sorry. I asked the question. I hope you didn't mind and all that. And he said, no, not at all. In fact, you came all the way to ask me that. I feel so impressed. Why didn't you sit with me? I'm getting bored anyway. And I sat with him and we started chatting. Oh, that was one of the most exciting time I had talking to someone so deeply in the next 3 hours. He told me about a family business that he was involved in. He gave me some business tips. And in fact, he was searching for a job. So I gave him some tips about the job because I was already working at that time. We developed such a deep connection that when we arrived at Mumbai, I had about 2 hours to change to a different train. And he said, could I stay with you for next 2 hours? And I said, why? Don't you have any other work in Mumbai? He said, no, I have to come here to receive someone at the airport, but that is not going to happen for another 6 hours. So he insisted on staying with me. He helped me carry the luggage. He brought me snacks to the train, and he all saw me off in the next train before he left. I I felt so blessed that I connected with him, and we still keep in touch. Harvard Business Review says the #1 criteria for advancement and promotion for professionals is an ability to communicate effectively. Effectively is the key word. Because remember that the words spoken is only small percentage of the impact. Robert Dallek, a presidential historian, says that there are 5 things that others don't do that our presidents have exhibited. 5 skills that US presidents have exhibited that really make them successful. They are vision, pragmatism, consensus building, charisma, and trustworthiness. If you really look at those 5, 4 out of those 5 are to do with connecting. Without connecting, you cannot really communicate vision. Without connecting, you cannot have consensus. Without connecting, you cannot have charisma. And without connecting, you cannot develop trust. Leaving politics aside, for those who are a little older, might remember the Jimmy Carter versus Ronald Reagan, 1980 presidential race. In the debates, Carter came out as cold, impersonal, constantly quoting facts and figures. In contrast, Ronald Reagan was engaged with audience. And even with Carter, that's why Reagan was called a great communicator. So connecting is all about others. Remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So just because you speak a lot doesn't mean that you're really connected. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. The tips for connecting, particularly in one-on-one situation, is talk more about the other person and less about yourself. Prepare in advance. Do some research before you talk to someone. What could be helpful to the person? Is there a quote? Is there a story? Is there a book that you can talk about? Look for ways to complement and add value. What can you do? Ask, what can I do for you? And follow through in any commitment that you make. These are great ways to connecting. Because connecting is all about others, not about you. If you keep talking about yourself, then you lose the opportunity to connect. Second thing is connectors connect on common grounds. They find common grounds with other people. Common ground is where everyone's needs, beliefs, and values intersect. If I talk about my belief or my values, that is not yours. Most likely you are not going to be interested. Worse yet, if I talk about some beliefs that violate your values, you're going to get completely alienated. I'll give you an example. One of my friends from India, he flew over to SFO, San Francisco Airport. And there was airline staff really started making good connection. He tried to be friendly with him. And the staff asked him, "Are you married?" And my friend said, "No, I'm not married." Then he asked, "Do you have children?" That was a very puzzling question to my friend. He said, "I told you I'm not married." So the staff says, "So what has that got to do with not having children?" So now that's a huge cultural disconnect right there that really alienated my friend. That's no way to connect. You need to connect on common ground. That's not a common ground. You need to be understanding the cultural aspects and sensitivities as well. Let's watch a small video about how on finding common grounds.
Hey, Mary, got some more reports from procurement for you to process. Sort of reminds you of Office Space, huh? Movie? TBS reports? You're too young for that, huh?
Well, I was still in diapers when you were getting back into diapers.
This old geezer could probably help you with those. You know all the codes by heart. Let me know. LMK.
Sure. If I need help, I'll,
I do indeed. Hey, Mary, I wonder if you could help me with something. Minecraft.
Listen, Gary, I appreciate what you're doing, but I'm not 12 and I have reports to process.
I'm just trying to get through to a friend.
Get through to a friend? You know, that's a song lyric.
Yeah, 20-pound sledge. They weren't down last week, you know.
Yeah, I was there. Wait, you were...
Oldest guy in the mosh pit.
Oh my gosh, you're a legend.
Try telling that to my grandkids.
I hope you liked it, because see, initially you think that they won't be able to connect. There is no common ground between them, and see how it turns out. Right? Okay, so far I've talked a lot about connecting, and in the title I have through behavioral analysis. Now you must be wondering, what has behavioral analysis got to do with connecting? So let's just now jump into the behavioral analysis part. Let's start with some little competition. I'm going to put a timer for 30 seconds. Here is what you need to do. Find the numbers in sequential order. Find 1, and then you find 2, and then you find 3 and 4 and so on. And let me know where you reach at the end of 30 seconds. Okay, so let me start the clock right now. So you know the instructions. Start with 1, 2, 3, find the numbers as high as you can go in 30 seconds. Go. "15 seconds, done. And 30 seconds. Okay, let's stop. Let's see. How many of you could reach 8? Let's start with 8, smaller number. Or why didn't you type on the chat window what's the number you could reach in 30 seconds? 9, 12, 15, 11. Great. Some people are good. 15 is the highest so far. That's good. Okay, good. So let's say 15. Doesn't look like anyone has got more than 15. Okay, now let me give you a little variation of the same exercise. I have drawn a quadrant here. I've got a line. This is vertical and horizontal line. And there are 4 quadrants now. And I tell you that really the numbers follow a pattern. 1 is an upper left quadrant, 2 is an upper right quadrant, and so on. 3 will be on the bottom right, and so on. So now you know the pattern, 4 will be in left. So now I'll give you 30 seconds, and now you can go, let me know what number can you reach up to. So let me start the clock. Start now. 15 seconds. That is 30 seconds. Stop. Now let's please type in here what number could you reach in sequential order. 23, 28, wow, 32, okay. Great, 30, 20, 23, that's much higher number. So 32 again, that's great. So you saw this, 34, wow. David, you win. I owe you one prize. Sorry, I should have, if it was like a live session, I could have given you some M&Ms. Okay, so you saw that when there is a pattern, you can go much higher. right? So the same holds true for people in our lives. When we are dealing with a lot of people around us, if we do not know the pattern, then you can only understand some part of them or some communication from them. But if you know the pattern of the people around you, then you become a lot more aware of how they communicate, what to expect from them, how to best prepare for them, how to interact with them, and how to respond to them in order to have successful connection. So let's see, how do you understand the pattern? Have you ever known someone who is very direct, very bold, drives the project forward, decisive, comfortable, being in control, self-confident? If so, they are B-wired. That's one type of personality. They are motivated by power, authority, winning competition, successes. And do you know someone who is fun, life of party, great at telling story or a joke, very social, outgoing, collaborative, trusting, enthusiastic, optimistic, persuasive? These characteristics indicate that he may be I-wired. He or she may be I-wired, which is inspiring personality. They are motivated by social recognition and relationship. And do you know someone who is loyal, dedicated, doesn't seek attention? This is maybe a backbone of your family or department. Someone you can count on to support people in project, who is calm, patient, stable, secure, passive, and loyal. Such people are S-type, which is stable personality. They're motivated by cooperation, helping others, sincere appreciation. Don't like too many changes to be done too fast. They don't like offending anyone. Lastly, do you know someone who is neat, organized, structured, cautious, systematic, objective, analytical, accurate, follows all the steps of the process religiously, focuses on detail? Then that person is C-wired, which is compliant, compliance to a specific process or step. They are motivated by knowledge that they possess, showing expertise, quality work. So in summary, there are 4 types of behavioral profiles. In summary, you can call it DISC profile. D for decisive or dominant personality, I for inspiring personality, S for stable, and C for compliant. Only 3% of the people are usually deep type personalities. 11% are I type, 69% are S type, and 17% are C type. That's the usual study shows. Please note that the D and I, the upper quadrant of this, are more like outgoing people. And S and C, the bottom quadrant, are reserved people. On the other hand, D and C, the left side of the chart, are task-oriented people. And I and S are people-oriented. If you knew these styles of the people, if you knew someone is I-type or someone is S-type, then you can devise ways to communicate with more care and more sensitivity, won't you? Then you can connect much more effectively. So I'm curious, out of DISC, which type do you closely identify with? Please type it in the chat window. D or I or S or C. What is your dominant personality out of all these four? Great. D, I, S. Someone is D and I. Yes, that is true. That could be. You know, we have also mix-up personalities. Great. Looks like we have majority are D here. But they do have mix of D and I, some of them, and some of you are S. Maurice says, after COVID, I'm clearly not compliant. Okay. Okay, so the fact is that this framework of DISC is not really necessarily meant to label us like you are that. Because the fact is that we exhibit multiple personalities depending on situation or the people around us. I am an I type, but I do exhibit S and I exhibit D, particularly with my siblings. I always exhibit D because they look up to me for directions. But naturally I am I, and I do exhibit S stable as well, but I'm not C for sure. So DISC profiling and debrief helps us recognize that pattern that illustrate person's behavior and we learn our own natural areas of strength if you knew your personalities really in detail, not just guesswork like right now. So you might ask, how do you precisely know what personality do I exhibit and in what situation? That's exactly what is done in a step called DISC profiling and debriefing. It is done by certified DISC consultants like me. And let me show you what goes on in DISC profiling. So I've got a video.
Whoever said money makes the world go round missed the mark. It's people who make up every business transaction. A company's employees are what makes its world go round. And if your people are miscommunicating with and misunderstanding each other, or worse, overrunning each other, then your company has problems. Make an investment in your business with a personality and communication training with your John Maxwell Team DISC certified instructor. Our DISC training reveals to each person insights about their own personality and how they send and receive information. The open sharing of each other's communication profiles allows your team to support each other's needs and promote their strengths so that everyone can establish an understanding of how to promote healthy and productive communication culture. Each DISC training results in a map that helps leaders learn how to help their employees feel accomplished and fulfilled. When you lower barriers to communication, your company raises productivity, boosts employee morale, and helps employees build a lasting appreciation for each other's strengths. Walk a path to ensuring that your team communicates clearly and effectively. Invite your John Maxwell Team DISC certified instructor to bring this training to your business.
Okay, one thing I do want to tell you is that although this video talked about work situation, the DISC profiling applies to individual in our personal situation as well as companies in work situation. When I did my own assessment, I came to know about several of my behavioral profiles that really helped me shape up my own communication and my connecting with others. I could also improve my communication with my wife, for example, because I knew the type I am and I can clearly figure out what type my wife is. In fact, a lot of times couples go through this analysis together because they can improve the connection and relationship. Okay, so let's now summarize. I think I have talked a lot about how to connect and how to do behavioral analysis and how behavioral analysis helps. So let me summarize. First point is connecting increases your influence in every situation. I talked about the example from Larry Pileggi. I did not even think that the situation, whenever I connected with him, is going to help me, but it does help. It helped me improve my influence in the company. Second is connecting is all about others. Just notice next time you talk to someone, how much do you talk about yourself versus listening to the other person? Third is connecting goes beyond words. As I mentioned, only small fraction of the impact of communication really comes from the words you speak. It's all about how you speak, what care you take. For example, if you're talking to an S person, you don't want to really jump right away into the topic because this person wants to be comfortable. First. Next is connecting is more skills than natural talent. Whoever said that you have to be born to be a connector is wrong, absolutely wrong. You can train yourself to develop connection, to be a connector. I did it over time. And now as part of my consulting, I help others connect better and hence increase their influence. Connectors connect on common ground. If you do not connect someone just because you think someone is not from the same background, same profile, or same years of experience, you're missing a great opportunity to connect with others. If you think that this guy is too junior, what would I talk to him? What is the common ground I have with him? I'm such a senior person. There you go, right there. Oops, what is going on here? Sorry about some technical interruption here. So if you really have these feelings where you can't really develop common ground just because someone is not from the right background, you have missed an opportunity. I know of several of my family members who have tough time connecting with someone just because someone looks so different. You can find common ground to connect. All you need is open mind. Lastly, behavioral profiling helps you connect more effectively. If you knew that D-type people if someone is D-type, then you need to make sure that you don't really waste time in chit-chatting and how is your family and that kind of thing, because D-types are really short attention span. They really want to get work done. Quick, 1, 2, 3, and goal, meet the goal, move on to next kind of guys. So if you start chit-chatting and asking family, he's already moved on to, he stopped connecting with you right there. On the other hand, if a D-type has to connect to I-type, I-type is all about social, make sure that who are the people who really are right personality, who is what. When some new project starts, the first question the I-type asks, who are the people who are going to be working in that project? That's the care about of I-type. Not what the project goal is or how much the timeline is and how challenging the project is. Those things are something that D needs to worry about. Likewise, when you're talking to C-type are the people who really are great in analyzing all the detail. They're great in risk identification. Say project goes on, a D-type will say, hey, let's do this in shorter time than what is allotted. And C-type will say, wait a minute, are you kidding me? Do you know how many steps are needed to complete this? How can you do sooner than what you think? So this behavioral profiling really helps you connect more effectively. If we knew all the profiles of the team, won't the team be at much better level in terms of performance? Here is a real case study that I helped a team in a company. A manager came to me and he said, Ramesh, I have a lot of groupism in my group. People are just form groups and they are not connecting with other part of the group. I don't know what is going. I don't know how to make them work together. My team is performing suffering. I did a personality assessment of the manager as well as the team members. It turned out that manager himself was very self-centered. A lot of the time he spoke, his communication was about I want this. I want you to do this. It was all I. And team members absolutely hated it. Secondly, there were some C versus I conflicts. There were C people who really wanted thorough analysis, accuracy, quality. And there were I guys who were like, oh my God, you are so detail oriented. I really, why don't we do some celebration together? We haven't celebrated enough. And C time is like, what? We have barely done 2 out of 10 steps and you want to celebrate now? What is going on? So there were inherent conflicts. And there were cultural sensitivity issues that we found. Overall, with the report and with the action plan that we came up with, the team was able to advance to much better, more connected and much better gelled team. That manager acknowledged himself. I have also helped individuals to improve their leadership and influence. And I'm not going to go through everything. Here he says that I was able to really bring my team to full potential. This is an ex-executive from Cisco. Here is Craig Hills. He is based in Japan. He works for a US multinational, and he was very successful with my training and coaching. So what I do as part of Quantum Vision Consulting, I do speaking, training, behavioral profiling, coaching, and consulting. And my focus areas are personal growth. Personal growth means really bringing yourself to a right level of platform to take up leadership positions or to become a better person for better results to reach your potentials faster. Leadership development, I take care of both aspects. Those who are trying to get into the leadership for the first time, technical professionals who really want to become leader. I really have specific programs for them. And also those who have been leader for about many years, 10 years, they really are stuck with the leadership skills that they have learned long ago, and they need to sharpen their leadership skills because times are changing. Leadership is evolving and they need to learn new techniques, and I have some specific programs for them. I have been part of Toastmasters for last 14 years. I'm a distinguished Toastmaster. I also do training on communication, team performance, and career as well. So for the audience today, I offer complimentary 1-hour coaching if you are interested. I also have complimentary 1-hour webinar on different topics like connecting, influencing, leadership, personal growth, communication. If you can garner about a group of 10 people, whether you're part of work or personally, I offer a complimentary 1-hour webinar. And also disc profiling, I am ready to do some discounting for people if they want to go with it. My time to book is right there, the URL. Actually, I should probably type that URL somewhere. And also have a survey for this thing. I'm typing. You should
put it in the chat, Ramesh.
That's a good idea.
That's the easiest way for people to, because they can't cut and they can't paste it, pull it off the slide easily. And the URL's tricky.
So I have put 2 links in the chat window. One is survey. I really would love if you can fill out the survey from today's talk, and that will really give me feedback and help me improve my talks in the future. Also, I have given a link on for booking time with me on the chat window. So as we close, so identify one thing that really sticks in your mind from what I have shared today. What is one thing you have learned today that you will do differently as a result of what you learned today? Can you type it in the chat window if it is clear to you right now? That will be very helpful for all others as well. Did something come to your mind that you will do differently based on talk today? And if not, I do have some suggestions for you. You asked for it. Here is my call to action that you should start today. In your next one-on-one, just notice how much time you talk about yourself and keep that talking about yourself to less than 1/4 of the time of the total talk. And for 3/4, listen to others. Assess your personality. Again, don't have to do it necessarily through me, but assess your personality in much greater detail. It will really help you understand why you behave the way you behave, why you communicate the way you communicate, why you don't connect with someone even though you thought you should. Thirdly, find common ground with someone with a diverse background, someone who isn't from the same background as you. Of course, we connect with someone who has very similar background, but I challenge you to connect with someone with a diverse background. Find common ground. Find something that you could connect with. Lastly, for one day, even if it is one whole day, give one undivided attention to a speaker. That means don't look at your smartphones when someone is talking to you, or don't look at TV while you're talking to someone, or eating, or doing something else while someone is talking to you. That's no way to connect with someone. Give undivided attention to someone who's speaking to you. I hope these are doable, not a tall order. So as Bear Brand says, it's not the will to win that's important. Everyone has a will to win, but will to prepare to win is what that counts.
Well, let's open it up for questions for Ramesh. If folks have questions, you can either unmute or you can type them in, and I'll use my radio announcer voice to put them to him.
Yes, open to question and answer. And I've given my contact detail here in this slide. In case you want to contact me in any way, I'll be happy to engage with you.
All right.
Ramesh, this is Innocent Young. I have a question, and it's just a thought process that I've been thinking about. Do you think it's a good idea to do a 360 review of yourself, like in the sense of trying to reach out to individuals or people that you have an engagement with, and try to get their feedback on your behavioral or who you are and what you are, and then use that as a tool to analyze the kind of individual that you are?
Absolutely, yes. So I think one of the best ways to assess about your behavior, your attitude, and how you come across is to really get to know through people around you. So identify a list of people who are part of your family, your friends, your mentors, your work colleagues that you trust, or some seniors at work that you trust. And yes, absolutely. And those were, get some feedback. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do they see as your attitude, and so on. So that will be great feedback to understand your behavioral profile.
Excellent, thank you.
Well. So Nick mentioned a statement here, don't talk to people who haven't been DISC profiled. I didn't get that. Maybe I can talk to Nick later. Or Nick, would you like to clarify what that means?
It looks like he's left.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, Ramesh, I had a question for you.
Yes, Carl.
One of my concerns about some of these methodologies is that engineers love to memorize and then jam people into categories. And in essence, it gets in the way of their ability to be able to see the other human being. Do you find that a lot? Because, you know, some of these things are a bit too packed in my mind anyway, but they're a good place to start, right? You start there, and then one observes people and then saying, was this person and you start hearing people say, well, I'm a part D, a part I, a part S, and a part C. Well, which part and, you know, how much of each? And there's no one's purely one thing. And also we all change our, if you want to call it personality, the way we present ourselves to the world, depending upon what we're doing. You know, like if we're talking to your wife, it's different than if you're talking to some stranger on a bus or whatever. I mean, there's all these things going on. Anyway, comments.
Yeah, certainly bucketing someone is really prevents the connecting part of it. As I mentioned, developing common ground, one of the biggest barrier is that we form impressions based on our own experiences or prejudices that we have. We form an impression even before we try to really connect. And based on that, we don't really make an effort. So that itself is a huge barrier, bucketing people. On the other side, you said we exhibit different personalities. Absolutely right. In fact, when you do this profiling, the thorough analysis that we do as part of assessment, we talk about in what situation do you change your personality? It's not just about, oh, you are D or you are I, or it's just combination of D and I. We talk about what kind of situation do you normally exhibit the other type of personality? So that way, you know, for example, in stress situation, it may be a different personality that you exhibit compared to a normal time. Other thing is that when the environment around you is not stable, say if your job demand is very high, you are really stretched thin and you're really under a lot of stress, then your personality changes as well. So your environment also determines the kind of personality you exhibit. In very high stress environment, you tend to show a personality that is not natural you. You tend to conform to what is expected of you. And that really creates a lot of stress in any human being because you really are not naturally you and you are really being expected to exhibit something else. For example, in fact, I could relate right there in my previous company that I was there. I am I-type and I'm really like people-oriented and really want to have a harmony and amiable environment. And I really fell into an environment where the work pressure was not only high, but there were things being asked, which was not really something that I could agree on. That created a lot of stress in me. In fact, my wife tells me that was one of the most stressful moments she saw in me, because I was expected very differently than what. So I am agreeing with you. All I'm saying is that assessment that I talk about is a lot more thorough. It doesn't talk about one single personality. It does talk about how different situations change your personality or show your different personalities.
A lot of stuff put into the chat. Teresa asked a question I thought was an interesting one. How have you changed the talk to reflect that the last year we've been doing a lot of connecting online? Do you have any suggestions for how to navigate those challenges?
Now, that's a very good question. In online, it gets even more critical to understand the other behavioral profile of the other person. Because when you are face-to-face, you kind of observe a lot of things and you can guess where things are going, what this person could be and so on, right? But in remote situations, because we're really not interacting physically with the person, all you're seeing is just a small frame to watch someone or interact with someone. Sometimes it is very difficult to figure out what that person is and where it's coming from. So depending on the words that you hear and depending on the approach that person takes in communicating, you can figure out the kind of personality one is, and you can connect better. For example, if somebody's I-type and you are connecting on video, don't start with, right away into the topic, right? You want to start chit-chatting and that person will become a little more comfortable because you have a very small exposure through remote. So it becomes a lot more challenging to understand, but it's also important to understand. By the way, you can also figure out from emails or reports somebody writes what kind of personality one is. Okay, it is not just necessarily just the physical communication, because say an I-type will write an email which is not jump up to the topic right away. You'll say, hey, remember the last time we met, we had such a great time. I still remember that. By the way, we also have this project topic to talk about. Whereas D person may be very close, very intimately familiar with someone, but you'll start with, okay, project step number 2 has not made progress. So what should we do about it? So there are various ways to identify things even in remote situations like this.
Well, if there are any more questions, or should we break here? Other folks have any final thoughts or questions they'd like to share? I want to thank Ramesh for giving us a great briefing today and for everyone that came. And we're going to break here.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for your attention. And I hope it was useful, and feel free to engage with me or contact me. Thank you.
Very useful.
Thank you, Ramesh, and awesome.